Welcome, everyone, to the NIGHTBRARY. This is our research jam. Oh, jam! Tonight we're going to talk to you about research. Yeah. So I'm Jason Anfinson, also known as Information Jason. I'm an associate librarian at the Sanford Lake Mary campus. Research and instruction is my specialty. I'd like to introduce my colleagues here. We have Claire A. Miller over from the Altamont campus.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here today.
And then we also have Ross Martin. Ross pulls double duty. He's on the Sanford Lake Mary campus and also on the Heathrow campus.
That's true. And I do a zillion things online every day. So yes, I make my rounds.
Yeah, very cool. And we also have Raleigh the Raider up there, our library assistant somewhere. Where over there, that corner? Okay, there we go. Yeah, for sure. So thank you all for being here tonight. We do want to make sure that you understand we are here to help you succeed. We know we're coming up on finals and you may be scrambling to get those research assignments in. You may be trying to figure out what is the research assignment? What is research? Who are these librarians? We'll help. We'll answer those questions and more. So go ahead and if you could, just drop us a note in the chat. Just say what's up so we could just say hi to you really quick. And we will start answering your questions and we'll talk to you a little bit about information and how to research what you're looking for. We'll probably talk about some of your classes. You know, some of you may be in the same, not necessarily the classes, but maybe the same disciplines. So we're seeing some folks in the chat. So let's give recognition here. We see Sam. What's up, Sam? Hello, Olivia.
Olivia, Christian.
John, Holly. Maybe a double Sam?
Yeah, Sam, is that a double Sam? Double Sam, no points offered, multiple hellos. We got you. Cool, thank you, Holly. Yeah, everyone, you're encouraged. Give yourself a nickname if you want. We could do that for this session. You know, that's totally cool.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Why not? And so again, as we're speaking to you and we're coming to you tonight to help you, maybe pop open your Canvas and maybe look at these assignments. So maybe we can tackle that for you and we can kind of have like an operating procedure, right? Like what exactly do we need to do? When is it due? And then we can really start our research. Because I think, you know, my colleagues are on the call. That's how I approach it. That's how I approach information literacy in real life. Say I'm going on a trip, maybe to another country or something. What is that country? What is the language spoken there? What is the currency? What is the major airport? And can I fly from Orlando directly to there? So I'm always, looking at my information needs, which vary. But then, as soon as you open one door and research, there's going to be another door and another door and another door. However, we can't start unless we know exactly what it is that we're doing, right?
So if you're not here with a specific assignment question, we'd love to hear why you're here in general. Are you here because you desperately needed a first-year experience credit? Are you here because you had citation questions that you desperately needed answered? We're curious. We're here to help. This is a kind of different format than our usual reference desk walk-up. First-year experience credit.
There you go, John. No shame in the game. We're all good. We got you.
We're going to give you some useful information. If nobody has an assignment, I suppose we could just do some fun activities. I have fun activities. I can find fun activities.
Sure. And on that note, too, since we do have a couple of first-year experiences, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about your experience. Right. I myself, I have been at the college for less than a year. So technically, this is my first year experience. Right. So, did it come across, my main thing, again, having this nickname of Information Jason, were you able to see the are you able to understand what we're calling information literacy and these information needs, right? Are you able to locate the information, critically analyze it, and then implement that good information, not bad information? We want credible, reliable sources for a purpose. So these are some of the questions that we're talking about. Oh, hey, we have Nicole here.
I'm moderator here.
Yes, I got to bust in for a moment before we dig into these topics and everything that the librarians are starting to talk about. I'm also a librarian, but I'm a behind-the-scenes librarian. I am Nicole from the library, and I'm the mod tonight. Just as a heads up to everyone that is joining us, watching us, participating, this is our inaugural live stream with guests. So welcome to our experiment of what is going on here. Bear with us as we try different things. The first thing I want us to try is our guests that are in the waiting room. You have not been added to the live stream yet because we can't see your face yet, which we will do, or your avatar, which we will do in a moment, can you see the comments versus the private chat? We've got a great discussion going right now in private chat. So I'd like you to go over to and click on comments and try that out.
Comments, but I can't see a way to add to them.
Agreed. I'm the same boat.
Yeah.
So when you click on comments, you don't see post a comment at the bottom of the screen?
No.
No, don't.
No comment option, says Sam. Olivia wants to comment. Olivia's dying to give a comment. We can't do it.
I'm wondering if maybe they have to go to a different link, like a watching link as opposed to a participating link.
Okay, it's probably because they're in the studio and not in the stream. So
Could be.
maybe if there's anybody watching, which there's 0 people watching right now, though their comments on YouTube will pop up. So that makes sense. Okay, John can see both, but you can't comment in comments. I think that's what the piece is. So let's go ahead and we're going to start to add people, add our guests into the stream up here. And remember, you do not have to share your screen as we are doing. You can leave it on your avatar. We'll be able to hear you. That's perfectly fine. It's totally optional. As people maybe come in and out, I might, if people are done asking a question, I might put you back into the studio and add someone else and pop you back and forth. But since I can see the private chat and you all know where the private chat is, please private chat me if you need something. And you can say, hey, Maud, or something, or hey, Nicole. Okay. All right. I'm going to go ahead and remove myself, and then we will get some people in here and start talking about some research questions.
Thank you, Nicole, very much.
Excellent.
Yeah, and as you guys, as we're doing this, we're working on this too. And so thank you for being a part of this. And we hope you have a fun experience. We realize that information and college and research, all of these things sometimes could be very frightening and cumbersome and just like, oh my God, what's going on? What's happening? Which is accelerated by the fact that we're almost at the end of this term, right?
Oh man.
Probably why many of you are here, but this is our first time kind of doing this experiment as well. So thank you for being here for us with us. It's a participatory experiential learning experience. Experience. Okay, I'll take it.
It works.
Yeah.
So I saw that we've got a couple of people who are taking an FYE or here for the FYE credit, but they also have a research paper in the works. So how's that research paper going?
And what do we have here, Maud, Nicole? Are friends just allowed to pop on the mic and they're able to?
Yeah, try it out. I think you guys are automatically, all our guests here that are seen in the stream, John, Olivia, Pauline, Sam, and Holly, you're automatically muted, but tell me if you can't unmute yourself.
Should be at the very bottom of your screen.
I can unmute.
It works.
Hey, John, Olivia, Holly. All right. Cool.
So how's that paper going?
Or do you have any questions? Is it something, kind of like what brought you here and how can we dive in? Maybe we need one example at the beginning just to get things going. Okay, Sam, mortuary science.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that topic.
Gotcha. And then Sam, to go back to what we were talking about before, what's our due date? Kind of how many pages have we written or words or give us.
Man, you ask the hard questions, Jason.
I do. I jump right in. Why? Because I want to help you. You're here to get the A. I want to help you get an A. So we don't want to, we don't want to sugarcoat anything. We want to help you. And remember, the librarians don't give grades. We want to help you get the A grade. So whatever I need to do to help. Holly's also got something, research paper for English 1. Social media is evolving feminism. I'd love to hear
that's
that
so
argument.
Exciting.
For sure. Sam,
first draft.
Yeah.
Great. So you've already done your research process. You've already incorporated your sources and done your works cited. Already turned in their final copy. Wow.
Awesome. He wants the FYE credit, y'all. That's all he wants.
Third body paragraph. Okay, so it seems like you guys are in pretty good shape overall. That's awesome. When you're having trouble coming up with the conclusion, I often go back and look at my introduction, right? I used to teach writing, even though I'm a librarian these days. And so I would go back and look at my introduction. I'd say, what has the person who's reading my paper learned since the beginning, right? Ideally, your reader will have learned something between when they start to read and when they finish reading your paper. So for me, the conclusion is my last punch. It's the last chance I have to really tell someone the things I want them to know. So maybe start at the very beginning, read through your entire paper, and try to sum up what you want your reader to know. This is your last chance to give them a solid takeaway. Hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, I can piggyback on that, Claire. You're kind of wrapping everything back up as well, and you're sort of hopefully reiterating the points that you've already made in the body, right? So did you really put your argument across? You know, think of a lawyer, right? Closing arguments, right? This is your final moment. This is the wrap up of the paper. And my friends, what you really want to do is you really want to have that drop mic moment, right? You really want to leave the reader. There's no ambiguity. There's no questions. It's like, boom, this is what I'm talking about. Boom, here are my points. Boom, to reiterate all the other booms I've done. And then it's a final boom. Okay? So boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah, I was going to echo exactly what Jason said there. It's like the conclusion is what you want your reader to take away from it. So you want to make sure that you're leaving them with something that they can remember, they can chew on, and like that's really driving your point home or reinforcing the main ideas behind your topic.
And so for Holly to use as an example, now this is just looking at the topic that you've put in the private chat. My topic is social media is evolving feminism. I'm arguing for you. I haven't read your paper and I have my own point of view. We all do here. I would hammer that home in the final conclusion. So in conclusion, if just in case you weren't reading my whole paper, this is exactly how social media is evolving feminism. However, where do we go from here, right? This is an open-ended question. You are contributing, right? You guys are all scholars right now, whether you know it or not. You are creating a new piece of knowledge. But we do realize, everyone on the call here, right, friends? Social media is not going to be done when you turn your paper in. Hopefully, please pray to. Neither is feminism, right? So I mean, you can't just say, well, that's it. Social media has evolved feminism, and now it's all over. Like, shut it down. So what are your observations on where you think it can go from here? And again, I always say every time, look at the assignment criteria and make sure you're following whatever the assignment is. But where does it go from here? What are your thoughts?
Great, Sam has a question. Let's give it a try.
Yeah, hi, Sam here. So I hope everyone can hear me fine. I had a question on, because I was doing my research paper, and had a question on the APA style when citing the entire work. It doesn't give me page numbers or anything like that, but I just want to kind of paraphrase the whole thing in my own words. And I know you got to incorporate the author's last name in the year, but how do I pinpoint? I know if it's from a paragraph, you would choose which paragraph it is, or which page number. You would list those page numbers at the end. But so if you're if
you're paraphrasing the whole work, this is a great opportunity. You don't need a page number. You don't need a paragraph number. As a matter of fact, APA style specifically says that if you are paraphrasing, you don't need a page or a paragraph number at all. You can do it with a signal phrase, right? As Strunk and White, 2018, states, blah, blah, blah. Or you could do it at the very end, right? APA style can be very difficult for new writers, parentheses, Strunk and White, 2018. Oh, and Jason's throwing some examples into our chat there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, Sam, take a look. Anybody who's doing a course right now on APA style, let's just take a sidebar conversation. Let's just talk about citations in general here, right? I'm hopeful, I'm assuming, but I'm hopeful that most of you are going to get your associate's degree and likely transfer to a four-year university. You may end up taking courses, depending on your discipline, where you may have to do MLA in one course, and you may have to do APA in another course, and you may have to do Chicago. You may have to do all three of them, okay? At the end of the day, you really just want to explain to the reader, which we know is your grading professor, who wrote it, what's the title of it, when was it written. That stuff should never go away, no matter what the citation management is, right? So keep that in mind. However, if you're using APA, I encourage you to bookmark that apastyle.apa.org. It has helped me in a pinch, right? I did a lot of APA. I think most of us did. I'm not really sure for my library science. But then when we teach, and we teach MLA to ENC 1101, so it's kind of like you really do have to kind of know. But friends, at the end of the day, it's the name of the container, it's the year. It's just like if you have a social security number, that number changes by 1. That's not you, is it? It's somebody else. So you really have to keep all of that in mind. But that's a good one. And then I'll pull up the MLA one that I use as well for the Style Center if you guys want to keep going.
So I will say that I was helping a student earlier today. She's taking 2 different classes, and one of them is using MLA style and one of them is using APA style. And she basically swapped them when she was working on her paper. And she wrote APA for the MLA style paper and MLA for the APA style paper. And she said, oh my gosh, I just need to unscramble this. And it took us not even 5 minutes, because the only thing that changes is the punctuation and the formatting and the capitalization. The order changes, but the information is exactly the same. As long as you have the information for your citation, you're in pretty good shape. Oh, and any of the librarians or the Academic Success Center will check your citations for you for free. Oh, Jason's given us some examples of how to format names for MLA.
Just on the name, just to give you a snapshot. And friends, when you think about it, whether you play sports or not, you do realize that baseball is one sport and softball is another sport. But you do know that that is the same sport, right? It's just a little bit different, okay? It's just a little bit different. So I try to use that scenario. And if you do have research needs following this, very specific, you can make a research appointment with any of us here. Our hours are open. We actually have extended library hours at SLM until 10 o'clock, and maybe somebody can pull that up or pull up the link on how to make those appointments.
I got it.
We will work with you on those citations. But again, as we're talking about, information, and this is your paper, this is your degree, this is your tuition. Make this like your artwork, make this like your song, your poem, and really get into it. So if you're explaining where you got the information from, you should really make a conscious effort to really detail, I got it exactly from this person on exactly this page, from exactly this journal, and so on and so forth. And that's what I mean by the drop mic moment, where your professor has no questions to ask you. All they do is go A+++++++.
Ooh, trouble getting into the stream.
Nicole.
So Nicole, if you can help us with that in the chat with Pauline. And while we're doing that, what we have pulled up on the screen here, this is the link is in the chat for appointments, if you folks want to click on that. And then you can see how to make those appointments. We do online, and then we also do in person at the point of need, whatever you need. And somebody, Claire or Ross, is walking through how to just set up one of those appointments. You get a calendar. We want to base this on your busy schedule. We realize that you guys are busy. Just quick, if we pause on the screen there, in the chat, tell us how many classes you're taking this term. Like, meaning how, as we wrap up here in the final 2 weeks here, how many do we have? Sam's at a 2, 4, oh wow, Olivia 5, 6. Do I hear 6? 7. Do I going on 7? 7 going on 8. 8. Okay, so 4, 5, 4, 2. I mean, anything more than 1 is going to be a lot, right?
Especially
friends,
in this
family,
last week.
right? And we're trying to. John's got 4. Try to juggle maybe a part-time, full-time job, maybe kids, family, pets, Netflix, try to eat some food, don't go, try to go to the gym, don't go to the gym, skip that, eat more food, watch Netflix. And then what do we do when we wake up in the morning? We go right back to schoolwork. So it's difficult. So you want to prioritize. So whatever openings you have in your schedule, this is how you can make a research appointment, and we will focus explicitly on your citations or your research.
Yeah, so we have a research assistance, which tends to be for those more in-depth, like we're really going to dig for resources. But we also have a citation check, which is just 20 minutes, very low commitment. You can say citation check, and then you can just pick the time that works for you. Now, I chose online appointments. I've been having a lot of students who just want to hop on Zoom really quick. They pull up their paper, we look at it together, and they're in and out the virtual door really fast. Or if you like to do things analog, if you want to come into one of our campuses, say you're over on the Altamont campus, here we are. You can make an appointment with me at various times throughout the week. And pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Ross. Does anybody have any other specific, while we're talking about citations, any questions about citations? Do you understand, as we're trying to explain it to you, just kind of the theory on why it's important and what its purpose is? Because I realize sometimes with college students, it's like, here, write a paper, do citations, bye. Wait a minute, what's a citation? What are you talking about? And then sometimes you'll hear it as a reference. You're like, what do you mean, my references? No, it's a bibliography. Wait, what are you talking about? You're driving me crazy with all these words. So does anybody have any questions? If you want to pop on the mic or anything
just
like that.
Ahead.
Citations.
I'd like to pop on the mic and welcome Laura Rodriguez to the stream.
Hey, Laura.
Thank you. That's our mod there. Glad we got that working. And thank you, for Pauline, for reporting that. Any citation questions?
Does anybody need sources? I know Sam mentioned he has the mortuary, because we can like screen share and we can watch if somebody needs a source. I mean, you got your three of the top librarians really of like the whole place right here. So let us know of your specific requests in the chat.
Right. So if we're good on citations, again, I'm encouraging you to bookmark the MLA and bookmark the APA. And is anybody using Chicago? Is anybody taking a humanities course? Heads up, if you plan on taking AMH, if you're going to take an American history course, which is you have to, and you're going to have to do the civic literacy exam, you will be doing Chicago. So that's a whole other thing. But at the same time, it's just the name. It's just the name. It's just the date. It's again, don't get freaked out. Just APA.
Different formatting, same information.
Correct.
The only thing that really changes is the punctuation and the order of the items.
Olivia.
Oh, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. 0 sources so far. Ooh, I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Let's divide and conquer. So Ross, what are you going after?
Do you want to pick one of each? You want to try? Okay.
Yeah,
pulled up.
You're already searching there. I can pull up a database.
Well, do you want? Can we do a back tap? Can we just start on the library page and then just explain again, kind of where to start from and stuff?
Sure. My page is ready to rock and roll. Oh, here we are. Many things happen. Oh, okay, here I am. All right, so library homepage, here we are. This is our lovely search box. This goes directly to Primo, our library search engine. Now, let's talk a little bit about what kind of sources we're looking for. You're saying, I have a research paper on Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. I'm guessing this might be for a literature class or maybe a humanities class. Olivia, can you tell us a little bit more about this assignment?
I'm just gonna unmute because typing is slow.
For sure.
So it is for British literature.
Great.
The assignment, it's kind of broad. It's about how scholars have reacted to the piece.
Okay, so you're actually looking for literary criticism.
Yes, that's exactly that.
Okay. So I'm going to put on my lit major hat right now, and I'm going to start with a search for the title of the work that we're looking for.
And while Claire is doing that, Olivia, do you mind sharing with us what methods did you use?
I'm going to be super honest. I am in 5 classes. I have not worked on this at all yet.
Love it.
Okay.
Love it. Let's give it up one moment for the honesty.
Yeah.
Everybody. Let's give it up for the honesty. We're all here with you. We're all human. We've been there. We understand the deadline's coming up, but we're going to fix that now. Okay, Olivia?
All right. Thank you.
I better make sure I spell Knight right. Okay, so Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is the title of our work. I have actually put it in quotation marks. That means it's going to search for only those words in that specific order. Now, I'm trying to remember, does Sir Gawain and the Green Knight have a specific author, or is that one of those lovely early British literature anonymous ones?
British Literature Anonymous ones. He's referred
Ooh,
to.
that's going to make things
following
more
poet.
exciting. But let's see what we get here. The reason it's about to get way more exciting is because we recently had a movie by that title. So we might get a little excited here. Now, a couple of things happening here. Here's our pop-up saying, hey, do you need some help? We're going to say no thanks. We've got 3 librarians. I think we're okay. The other thing it's telling us to do is to sign in. And Olivia, I hope you can do this on your end. Just sort of walk through the process with me, because then you can save items as we find them.
Okay.
So when I click sign in, it's going to ask me to log in with the single sign-on, SSO. The reason I want to do this is that means I can get full access to all those full text articles, and I can save items to my folder in Primo, the library search engine. This little push pin up here in the corner, this is my favorites list, and it allows me to save things. So we've got some various translations. We've got a lot of copies of the book. But what we really want is that literary criticism. So if you come over here to subject, you'll see that we've got lots of choices, including, legit, it says, literary criticism. 200 of our results are literary criticism. I'm going to click the little checkbox here. I'm going to say apply filters. Being very fancy. Nicole, you're throwing me off with how fancy we are. And here we have a bunch of articles specifically looking at Sir Gawain and the Green Knight through the lens of literary criticism. Whew. So now what I can do, and I'm just going to walk through the way I would do this, and maybe we'll let Ross and Jason jump in just a minute. I tend to scan through the titles and the little snippets right here to see what looks interesting, what looks useful, what is jumping out at me is, ooh, that looks cool. Let's see. Knight of a god or goddess, rethinking religious syncretism. I wonder what syncretism means. That's a weird word. I'm not familiar with that one. So I might have to look up that word in order to know what it means. Incarnation. Okay, this is comparing 2 different works of literary theory.
And also, too, Olivia, pop quiz. You're not going to get a grade. When did you read this last?
We read it
When did
first
you
half
read
of the
it?
semester.
Yeah.
Well, in the class we read it in the first half of the semester.
Yeah. What date was that? When was that? You're gonna write the paper.
The day I can find it. I can find it real quick. Hang on.
What I'm getting now, you fell into my trap. What I'm getting at is I would, Claire's going over her approach. I would also try to smush in a little bit of my approach, which is reread the story,
right,
or reread the whatever, and then look at the research and look at the results. And then again, I'm challenging you, go back and read it again, because this is kind of like a back and forth. You kind of need to know, because have you drafted your thesis statement yet?
Nope.
So to put it in context, right? So Claire's looking at all of the headlines, but that might not mean anything to you because you haven't read it in 4 or something months, and then you don't know what you're writing about. So that, you see what, are you with me?
I reviewed it for the midterm, so I remember the story itself pretty well.
Got it. So do you know what kind of approach you're trying to take, or are we just looking for anything at this point? We're in Scramble City.
To be perfectly honest with you, this is the first moment I've started thinking about it. Yep, scramble.
Excellent. Let's scramble. So I like number 8 here. Frustrated readers and conventional decapitation in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight.
It's conventional. It's conventional decapitation. It's conventional
decapitation.
Nothing experimental.
But frustrated readers, ooh, I like that. That says, how are people reading this story and what's interesting about it? So if I say, that sounds really interesting, I want to come back to it later, I might just pin it.
Right.
Or I could grab the permalink and throw that in a Word document, or in this case, because I'm feeling really kind, into the chat if you guys want to take a look at this with me.
Correct. Or you can email it to yourself as well. And so what if we're just jumping in on processes, that's the way I would do it. I would pin it as well, but I would email it to myself for later. And I think what we're trying to say here, my friends, is you don't want to read an entire 4,000 page article or book or whatever and go, that had nothing to do with what I was talking. I wasted all that time. So just kind of skim through it, maybe get 10 or 15 or 20 of them, then narrow that down. It's just like you're buying stuff on Amazon or whatever. Real talk, people. You put some stuff in the cart. I'm sure you have stuff in the cart from 5 years ago you never even come back to. You just throw it in and then you're like, oh, I want that. This is the same way. Load it up, and start very wide and then narrow it down based on your unique information needs.
Now, I will say that I tend to work a little bit tighter, I think, than Jason does. So I'm going to actually look at the summary of this article before I commit to this article.
But you liked it. We both looked at the headline in this hypothetical, and we both liked it. So yes, I would open it up too. Let's see what we got.
And here's a description. Let me see if I can make that a little larger for you guys.
And Olivia, as you're reading the description, try to pick out keywords or interest points where you can go, oh, that's interesting. I can kind of maybe focus my paper on that, right? And flash back to the time you read it and the contents, right?
Okay. So here we're looking at the ways people are not seeing the idea that Gawain acts differently in different contexts. So this is looking at Gawain's behavior through a specific critical lens. This could be really helpful. I've got a good feeling about this. So maybe I'm going to email it to myself. Maybe I have fallen in love with this article and I would like to spend my evening reading it. Any one of these databases should have it. I'm a big fan of JSTOR. We're just going to go right there.
And Olivia, another pop quiz for you, my friend. I know I'm putting you on blast, but I'm trying to help you. How many of these sources do you need, my friend?
4.
Okay, good. All right, so we're
okay.
on.
We can do.
We got that.
So here's the full text of the article. Yes, I accept all delicious cookies. Thank you so much. Oh, and here's the stable URL that will allow me to get back to that article later. That might be useful. Here, I'll put that in the chat too. And then I can actually download it. I always download my articles so I don't lose them. Yep. So I could download the whole thing. And I might just read this first paragraph and make sure that I'm feeling happy with it. Sometimes I start to read this article and I go, whoa. I had no idea what any of that meant, because a lot of these articles are written for people who are professionals in the field, and it's very much technical language. So if you're overwhelmed, maybe get a couple more sources and see if you find some ones that are a little more readable, or you might just have to take it slowly and do a little bit at a time, looking up words as you go. It can be a little frustrating, I'm not going to lie. But Ross, you had some great tips that you shared a while back on reading academic articles, which are kind of different sort of reading.
Well, sure. I'm not sure that it's as applicable with literary analysis, because I think with literary analysis, you probably want to read the entire source. But I'm a big proponent of when you're faced with finding scholarly research, to really like pick the source apart and try to make sense of things that you may not be super familiar with.
Right.
And if you'd like, we could take a look at something more in the vein of like a scientific research study to illustrate that point. But I don't know if you want to do that right now.
Well, I want to make sure we get Olivia a couple more sources so that she feels pretty solid. So Nicole, can you throw my screen back up? Here we are in the results list. So I found one that looks interesting to me. I pinned that. I also shared the permalink with you. Yes, John, if you need to leave a little early, you've been here. You will get attendance credit for being here. We appreciate you.
Did you get what you needed, John? Should we help you real quick before you gotta go out, or you what? Oh yeah, you just wanted that credit. No, I got you. I remember, John. All good.
It's okay. We get it.
I love
turn the
how
paper
I
in.
love how honest the students are,
This
because
is
when
it.
we can all be honest with ourselves, I think we can get places faster, right?
Correct.
Professionally, academically. It's good. It's good stuff.
And Olivia,
All right.
this is good so far for you? Are we helping you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. So, you know what? Actually, I can do, and I might do this because it gives us some chance to explore a few other things. I can actually share my search with you, believe it or not. So this is the search that has Sir Gawain and the Green Knight in quotation marks, plus that literary criticism filter. There's the link. You can take that link, throw it into your browser, and it'll run the exact same search that I'm running right now. Kind of neat. Ross showed me how to do that.
Can we pivot from the Primo and maybe go to the library databases and look at some literary criticisms there? Okay, did everyone see how we got to the databases page? There's a clear indicator on the seminolestate.edu/library page that says databases. Pop on that. You can see we have 103 databases. That's a lot. And just to give you a heads up, when you transfer and you go to a 4-year university, that's probably going to be double, triple, maybe quintuple. It's probably going to be 600 or 700. It's a lot of those databases. Cool. That's great feedback, John, if you're still on the call. Appreciate that. Yep, make an appointment anytime.
So when you've got that many databases, Jason, how are we going to narrow it down to what we really need?
Well, it's a good question. So there's a couple different ways. So you folks see the letters. So you can, if you know the name of the database, you can go across, you go A, B, C, what have you. You can also type it into that search for a database. But if we don't know, we can also scroll down and you could look literally A, B, C, D. But I know the subject, at least I know the subject area. So I want to go to the upper left, right under library databases and click under choose a subject. Now, which subject do I want? Well, I'm thinking, Olivia, you guess. You tell me. Are you in ENC 1101, ENC 1102, or are you in something like fire science or foreign language, which I know that isn't the case?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. You're going to drop down. Are you in an ENC 1101 or an 1102 course?
I think it's ENC 2012.
Yeah, British literature. But
yeah,
that fits.
And literature.
So it's in the literature one, right? So in that case, thank you for clarifying. And I might have not been able to figure that out either. So we click on that one. And then we saw that there was 10 in there. We do have some best bets. And then you can kind of see if you want to listen to it. There's different speakers there and stuff. But I think these top 3 would be really good to look through. And you can actually read the description underneath just to verify. Any English, any literature, any of that stuff, this Bloom is going to be your friend here.
Bloom's is really great. It tends to give a really solid overview and have really high-class criticism. It doesn't have as much as some other databases, but I love starting there. So here we are. And we're going to search for your specific work, which I failed to copy and paste. And the Green Knight. Make sure you spell Knight right, Claire. All right, and we've got a bunch of results.
And just to be clear, when you say a bunch, we have 80. What were the results in the Primo? Can we go back to that tab just really quick? We still have the.
We have a Primo.
Okay, 1,542, right, friends? So it really does matter, you know, when you're looking at some of these. Sometimes if you get 1 billion, that's a lot, you know. But sometimes if you get 2, you might go, "Yay, I got 2," but maybe that's not enough. So you really do have to have that Goldilocks moment, right? Find something in the middle, not too hot, not too cold, but you keep narrowing it down based on your needs.
So this is actually divided into tabs. We've got reference criticism, which is what we want. Literary works, images, videos, timelines. We want criticism.
Now that 80 is going to become 26. Not too shabby, right? That's a pretty healthy amount that we can sift through.
And you'll see that these are really focused, right? The practice of piety. Piety is how religious kind of you feel inside. How devout do you act? The role of Morgan Le Fay in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Chivalry in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. That's a big deal in that poem,
Olivia,
for sure.
this is where your point of view and those keywords come into play, right? If you were thinking piety, boom, you already have the one. If that has nothing to do with it, you see it, you say no, you skip over it. And that's part of the evaluation process, right?
So I want to take a look at this one about chivalry. That seems interesting to me. And say I want to save it for later. Remember, you can always download it. I'm going to hit the share button because I want to actually...
And while you're looking in there, we can see that Seminole State is in the URL. So when you end up putting that into your citations, that's a verification that it's a library database. So in your assignment, if you look at the criteria for any of your assignments, if it says only library resources, we're going to know right away because of the URL. We could see that right away. And so can your professor who's giving you the grade, right? So
I wanted to make that a little bit larger for us.
That helps me. That helps me. I can see it. I'm here like you guys. I'm squinting.
Also remember,
full screen.
I just want to point out, you see at the top of this article that Claire pulled up, the read aloud. I would say most of the databases have features where you can listen to the article. It'll read it in. And of course, there's lots of free text-to-speech readers out there now. For like Apple, Android, or even for Windows, but it's built into a lot of the databases. So don't miss that, because listening to it and reading it might help you kind of like absorb it and process.
For sure. Well, what if you're in the other room and you're cooking food or lifting weights or playing with your pets or whatever? You don't, listen to it for sure. Great point.
So what's really interesting is this is from a specific book, and the whole book is all different critical readings of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. We may have found you
This is the mother lode. This is it.
This is really nice. So I gave you the link to this specific source in the text. But every database is a little different. We looked at Bloom's. Now I'm going to look at Gale literature.
You like Gale literature over Literary Resource Center? This is Nerd Librarian talk here.
I find they're moderately equivalent, honestly.
I like the Literature Center. I like that one. There it is. It pops up. So some of these databases, right, guys, you get like a co-pilot, right? It'll help you populate it, and you can just pick and see what you're looking for.
I have to remember to click in the right screen. Okay, so no, you didn't.
No, it did not do it for you. See, and you pick this database.
Now, something to keep in mind when you select those suggested spellings is every single time it puts it into quotation marks. I run into this all the time with my students because they'll select their author's name in quotation marks, and it drastically reduces the pool of things, because if the author's last name came first, it won't find it. So you got to be careful with the quotation marks. Now, with a title, that makes sense.
Yes.
And everything that Ross is saying and more, is if you put your mouse down just an inch, is available right there where you see the search tips. So you can actually play with that if you need to. Stuff like wildcards or putting the asterisk on the end, or making a Boolean operator, right? I want vampire and bats, not weekend. Something like that, right? Vampire weekend, Claire. The band.
Specific search, Jason.
I do it all the time. I'm like, where are those vampire bats? I got to find them, but everything's Vampire Weekend, the band. I don't want that.
No, that's for you. All right, let's do a quick search.
And Pauline and Holly and Laura, we're gonna get to you.
All right, we got literary criticism right here. Gives us 58. Once again, it's under 100, but that actually means that we've probably got really solid sources. We're not wading through a bunch of nonsense.
Here's something to think about too. Depending on what the discipline is, you may want to look at more current information. So on this one here is from 1957, but if you take into consideration the way that things move over time, you may have to look at something like this if an author or a scholar is revisiting this, right? This is an old piece of work. When I say old, I mean more than 5-10 years, right? But maybe there's a new lens.
13th century.
So it's more than 5 years. Thanks for the confirmation. But you may want to look at something, like the Me Too movement is a prime example. You can find older stuff from the mid-90s on Pulp Fiction. It's the greatest movie ever. Everybody, the greatest producer ever. Well, the producer of that movie was a person named Harvey Weinstein. And so if you looked at something at the time, you'd probably see something like, wow, the king of Hollywood, the producer. And now if you look at it, it's just like this person is now in that cell, right? And so things change over time. So keep that in mind on your different disciplines. English, you kind of can stay in 1988, 1987 or whatever, but I'm encouraging you maybe look for something that maybe something that's been written newer, and then you can compare the two.
Right.
You can compare the two. What has changed since then?
One of these articles, which was written in 49. Fine. That's not a problem for literature. It's still solid. But maybe I better pair that with, here's a 98. That's a little more current. And maybe I'd find something from 2006. Although I don't actually think we care about the Merry Wives of Windsor, so that's a bad choice. Ooh, this looks interesting.
But does that make sense, Pauline and Holly and Laura and Olivia? Like, again, if you're looking at like the newest, does anybody really look at the COVID numbers from when COVID first started? It's like, no, what about now? But we still need those numbers from the beginning to see where we're at now. So the information still has value. You still keep it there, but we kind of want the current. However, when you're working with history or English, you're probably working on something that's been written a long time ago. So just keep that in mind when you're searching.
All right, so I'm sharing that with you. Holly, Olivia, that should give you 3 out of your 4 to at least explore. I was just pulling up examples. So you can run these exact same searches and find these examples. Now, we had some other questions come in.
I want to do feminism and how social media has, and that's a prime example of what I was just talking about, right? We didn't have social media 30 years ago, so good luck finding that. And now when you say social media, TikTok, we didn't have 3 years ago. 15, 20 years ago, we had something called MySpace and Friendster. And now it's like, what do you mean social media? You mean Twitter? You mean Tumblr? You mean, we don't use Tumblr anymore. It can go on.
So Holly, do you already have your sources for that paper, or are you still looking? You've got your annotated bib at the ready. Awesome. Now, I did want to go to Ross's point about how to read a scholarly article, and I think social media and feminism might be a great option. So I'm going to try a quick search. And I want social media to be searched as a phrase, so I'm going to put that in quotation marks. I'm going to say, and
keep this in mind too, because that's such a good one, just to remind everyone of what the prompt is. Holly's working on, her point of view, her stance is that, so social media has evolved feminism. And I think I inadvertently or intentionally just touched on it, didn't I? Didn't I kind of just touch on that? By the way, the Me Too movement started where? On social media.
Twitter.
Right? So I just kind of touched on it, and it started with the hashtag, and then, so there we go. Okay, you looked into that as well. Okay, great.
Awesome. Yeah, so here we have Journal of Sport and Social Issues. This might be what we want to do that example for Ross to kind of take us through how to read an article that's written in a technical style. Ooh, we've been having some issues with Sage. Let's see if it works.
So Holly, you have your annotated bib. So what are you looking for? You need more sources, or what? How can we help?
I think she's just at the writing stage right now.
Okay, got it.
Let's see, but what I wanted to do was, okay, here we go. Let me send you this, Ross, so that you can navigate and give us the overview here. Where's my link?
Okay.
That's what I want. I wanted that DOI.
And everyone, when you're looking at it, when your assignments say, make sure you're getting academic journals or peer-reviewed journals. Do you see in that link in the chat the letters DOI? That's a clear indicator. That's actually a digital object identifier or direct object identifier. When you see that, that is gold. That means good. That's really all you need. You can keep investigating, but if you want to go efficiently and effectively in a nice pace, just look for the DOI, as I like to say, and then you're good. All right, back to you, Rob.
All right, so yeah, let's look at this article. I kind of opened the PDF version on my screen, but we can look at that one. That works too. So when you're looking at an article, if it's a scientific research article, they are almost all going to be laid out identically. And I think that's a really helpful thing because these scholarly articles are going to be written for an audience of other experts. When these research studies are published, they're primarily written so that other experts can learn from those findings, apply that stuff to their research. And that's kind of how the knowledge in the field grows, right? It gets shared one after another in these studies. But as students, I always look at it like I go to school because I'm learning from experts too. So it's a great way to see that conversation happening in real time. You can see where these new articles are coming from, where the new information originates, So when you're reading this, you're probably not going to be super familiar with every single piece of this. You're going to have a lot of terminology you're not super familiar with, and you're not going to necessarily know what everything they're even talking about in there is. So when you're looking at an article like that, when you see this, they're all going to start with some kind of basic abstract on this, that quick summary of what you're getting into before you go through the trouble of reading 12 pages or whatever it is.
Hey, Ross, can we zoom in? If you do Control+++, that should make it bigger on our screen.
Yes. How is that better?
That's way better. Thank you so much.
So as you're scrolling through, almost every article in the entire world is going to start with some kind of introduction. And that's what we've got here at the very beginning. The introduction is going to be where they set up what they know about this topic already, why they're doing this study, and maybe even a little bit about what they're hoping to find out in this study. So you always want to read that introduction because that's going to put you in the mind of this is what we're trying to find in this study. But then if you're dealing with scientific research, often, this is a little bit more context to this, the use of social media. But as we scroll through this, this is like a case study, I guess, perhaps.
It looks like,
yeah, an example.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking for something called a methodology section. I have not seen that yet, but I think they're really focusing on this one source. Because as I'm scrolling through here, I'm not seeing exactly what I want, but
I gave you a social science instead of a hard science. Sorry, Ross.
Yeah, let me see. I had something pulled up and then I lost it, but bear with me half a second and I will get back there. Feminism. I have to spell it correctly in social media.
And on that point there, feminism and social media, really quick, Holly, how did you, when you got your annotated bib and everything, what search terms did you use? What was most effective? Because I just typed in social media feminism for my search. I didn't even do the and. I just did social media feminism. I just chunked it out into those keywords. Now that's just to begin. That's just to start. And then I was going to dive more deeper into it. And I probably would have looked at different Twitter versus Facebook versus feminism, social media. Okay, cool.
So this article caught my eye for a couple different reasons. But if I look here, as I'm reading this abstract, I can see they're definitely looking at some hard research here. They're addressing a couple studies they've done. So I know when I go to this, I'm probably going to be dealing with some data analysis. And that's the tricky thing in these articles. So if you're looking at this article, and I will try to zoom larger again so we can all see what we're dealing with here. Same deal. You can see this is a totally different article than we saw before, but it's still going to start with that abstract. As we scroll through, it's still going to have the introduction. So we want to read that. But as we go through here a little bit more, there's some context, all this kind of stuff. Now I'm starting to see this. They're telling you what their research questions are. This is what they're hoping to find in this study. So I want to know that. I want to know that they're looking at how social media users choose to describe this. And then I'm almost sure I will find this, the methodology section. So when these researchers publish this study or produce this report, they have to justify their research methods, because another group of experts in this field are going to review this, make sure that the research was done properly and ethically and all that. So they have to explain everything that they did in their study. You probably want to know a little bit about what they did. You know, I can see here, well, oh yeah, they studied these Twitter users. They studied a lot of tweets using this hashtag. So, okay, great. I kind of know where they're going with this. But as you look here, they're also going to like talk about the mathematical equations they're using and the different formulas that go into this. There's a whole section on the data analysis. And for me, as somebody who's looking to learn the main ideas behind this research study, I may not be so interested in this stuff. So if this trips you up as you're reading it, as you're scrolling through this, don't worry too much about that, because it's probably not going to impact how we understand this information. And as you go through here, you know, this is pretty typical too. Almost every one of these scientific articles is going to have a results section. And the results are where they're going to tell you everything they found in that study. Which again can be pretty dense reading, because they're going to be using those mathematical formulas to explain why these results exist, you know, how they happen. So again, it might be good to skim through this and kind of understand what they found, but don't let it trip you up if there's things in here you don't quite understand. Often I don't understand the results when I'm reading a scientific study. Because as we go down here a little bit further through all these different results, there they have like a summary, and there's a whole second study here. But what I was looking for is often there's a section that's called like a discussion section or a conclusion section or both. Am I going to find it here without giving you vertigo? There it is. So discussions are another really, really crucial thing to read here, because this is often where they're going to summarize the results and tell you why the results matter, how they answer their research questions, how they apply to the larger topic. So often this is where I see quotes coming from. You know, according to this study, they found this, and that's why I think this. So you really, really want to pay attention to this. And there may be a conclusion section. Not every article has both. Some just have one or the other. The conclusion section is kind of as we talked about earlier, it kind of wraps up the study and might even tell you some limitations of their research or next steps where they might go with it. So I find the discussion section most helpful, but that's a quick and pretty simple way to navigate these articles without letting it overwhelm you, because I can get really deep into these studies and get really lost and confused. But I always try to go back and go, okay, what was the introduction? What was the main idea here? And what happened in this study? Like, what did we find and why does it matter? So I don't know if that helps explain things a little bit better, but you're going to be dealing with these. The further you go into your academic career, you will be dealing with more and more of this scholarly research. So it's good to get those habits started.
Yeah. And so, Holly, were you able to kind of find what you're looking for, do the research, do the annotated bib, and then are you just getting your credit? Are you getting your first year experience credit? Because it sounds like you already got the A. It sounds like you're ready to go. You just want to hang out with some librarians on a Wednesday. Is that it? But I like your topic, and I like that approach, because they're both very wide. Social media in and of itself is very wide, very broad. Same thing with feminism. Well, what part of feminism are you talking about? What time era, right? What is feminism? When did feminism start? So you're looking at all those kinds of things, and then you were probably, I'm assuming, you took your unique point of view, and then you're saying, well, social media, as much as we kind of bicker about it, or I'm not on Instagram anymore, blah blah blah, it's actually helped the cause. And you probably gave some examples, right, from the research to reinforce your argument. Yes, this all sounds familiar. But I'm also talking to everyone else on the call too. That's really what you're doing. You're really just standing on the street corner going, I'm saying this. And then you're finding this information and going, according to this source, look, see, I'm right. And here's another source. And those sources are credible and reliable sources. You're not just, looking at the supermarket rags, right, at the checkout line, And so that's really what you want to be looking for. And I'm glad you found what you're looking for, because that's a fun topic. Should we get to the mortuary one? Where was that? person still on the call?
I think that was Sam.
Yeah, Sam had to leave.
Got it. Okay.
But on that note, was it Sam or John? Oh, no, it was when John left. He was like, thank you guys. I always felt intimidated making a meeting with a librarian, but you guys are really chill. I think I was just like, my heart, just be still, my heart. That was good to hear. But yeah, Sam's gone. But I think he said that he had all his sources. So I think he was situated pretty good. We gave him a chance to let us know if he needed something really specifically. So
well, Holly, can we have you on the call? Do you mind? Do you want to put on your mic and let us know, like, what were your research findings? What did you find? Do you want to share it with us, or just put in the mic? No, dude, or put in the chat. No, I'm not talking.
I think Holly's on keyboard today because her mic's not working.
Oh yeah, keyboard, no mic. Okay.
Now, Laura, Pauline,
okay,
how are you guys doing? Do you have research papers? Do you have research projects?
Take your time, Holly.
Are you just here for the FYE credit? We understand.
Yeah, just drop it in the chat. What was the question again? I was just asking, what was your conclusion? What did you find? Did you find proof? Did you find evidence, scholarly, academic reinforcements to positively give your argument the credibility that it deserves? That is to say, social media has advanced or evolved feminism. Am I getting that right? All right, Olivia, FYE gang. Yeah, for sure. Actually, that should be the new hashtag. The school should be using that, right?
FYE gang?
Yeah. Oh, gang. So, racial equity within the college. Got it.
So, Pauline, you're still working on this project then. So, annotated bibliography, 5 sources about racial equity within college, and maybe how to have an unconscious bias training to create equity. Wow, that's a really cool project.
Are y'all are the 3 of you gonna divide and conquer?
Yeah, let's take a look at it. Pauline, I want to make crystal clear, sure. When you say you need like 5 sources, is it exactly 5 or more? I want to make sure. I don't want you to get points off. You might get dinged if there's missing a source. So is it 5 or more? And then while you're doing that, exactly 5. Cool. And then Holly's saying, something is in a negative way. So I'm trying to prove that it's helping. Got it. Well, that's interesting because when you say some say, my initial thought is who's saying that, right? And where did you get that? And then my initial next thought is, do you include that in your paper as kind of a counter argument that you can pour ice cold water on? Because that's another way that you can use your sources. You can do your sources and go, here's my argument, and then here's a little counter argument, but I'm going to crush that counter argument. And I always like to bring the DJ Khaled approach to my research papers. Therefore, another one. Here's another source and another source. Here's another reason why I'm right. And that, I'm making jokes and making light of it, but that's how my papers read. So when you're reading it, there is no ambiguity. And here's another reason why I'm correct. Here's another reason. And I think once you get that tone, it may help you. It may help, especially in the APA side, right? There's different tones in these writings. And I may be approaching it from an APA standpoint. So don't take that as gospel. But at the same time, how many arguments or squabbles or bickerings have you had with someone in real life? And you're like, oh, well, what? Oh, really? You don't believe me? Hey, Ross, come here. You believe Ross? Tell him, Ross, it happened. You know what I'm saying? So we're always bringing in information. We're always trying to bring in a credible, reliable source. So just keep all this in mind when you're doing your research. Every single word that we say. Keep it all in mind.
So I started working on Pauline's search, and I just did a straight up search for racial equity college. And I've gotten some pretty interesting results that I wanted to kind of talk through and then maybe get my fellow librarians on to chime in a little bit and see if we need to narrow this down more or if we're finding what we want. Yeah. So we're finding some really specific articles like this first one, crafting a racial equity practice in college math education. That's pretty neat because it gives us a narrow approach, just one course, one topic. We've got mental health care disparities. That's maybe a little off topic. Improving racial equity in community college. Okay, and this is from an educational evaluation and policy analysis journal. That could be really interesting. Here's a pretty recent one, 2020, COVID-19 and racial equality implications of reopening college and university campuses. So what I'm seeing so far, fellow librarians, is we've got a lot of potential places we could go. This is a really big topic, much bigger than I kind of thought it was at first.
It's a big topic, Claire and Pauline. My suggestion to you is, one, I would look again at the assignment criteria or the prompt. I'm imagining you selected this as a topic, yes or no in the chat. But what I would do, this is my personal point of view, we're all librarians, we have equal degrees. I would find out what racial equity is. I would find out what the definition is, whether it's in college or wherever. But then what is unconscious bias? And then what is unconscious bias training? And so I'd start to get those definitions to help paint me a picture on where we're going, right? Because I feel like, and maybe you've had a challenge, maybe you've hit a roadblock, maybe you haven't started your research. All of the above is totally fine. But I feel like this is kind of a smush a round peg into a square block moment where we're trying to just like, I need the exact answer on how racial equality within college help. So I would kind of parse that out, meaning just get different chunks and approach. What is racial equity? What is racial equity in a college setting? And then what is unconscious bias? And then how can one train to provide racial equity within a college? Is that the thing? And did you select that? All of the above, right?
Yeah. So it's a big topic. So as Jason said, you can either start by narrowing down on the terms, or my general approach is to look at what the research is giving me, right? I could pick any one of these sources and make that my topic, my narrow topic. Like, for example, if we wanted to, we could look at only racial equity practices in math courses. And I bet we could find 5 sources. I know that we could find 5 sources on mental health disparities among college students, because we've got 2 sources already on the very first page. Or maybe I'm going to look at the racial equity implications of COVID-19 in a college setting. I could do any of these topics. Right now, my topic's so big that I almost don't know where to go. I could narrow down by picking an article or a book that looks really interesting and making that my even narrower focus. Ross, how would you approach this one? It's kind of a big, squishy topic.
Well, I honed in really quickly on that unconscious bias training thing. And when I was running a search through there, I added the word bias to it. The reason I did that was because I wasn't sure how exactly to express that with unconscious. And one of the things I found really quickly in a search is that the word implicit bias came up multiple times. So maybe that would be a better word to use than the unconscious bias. I don't know how similar those words are in this context, but they seem like they're going that way. And then the further you can narrow that, the more they're going to be relevant to your specific interests on that. But you might play with that wording a little bit. I mean, the hard part of searching is matching your ideas with how the words are published, because we can't change the words that are published. Like, we have to change our own ideas.
Ross, that's a good one. And then when I put in the Primo, I put in unconscious bias, and Primo, which is a computer, and we are human beings, at least I know I am, says cognitive bias.
Oh.
So I put in the chat synonyms. This is a great example, my friends, and we've stumbled upon this serendipitously. Those different words can matter in your searches. They can matter in different things, like, say, police brutality. Well, do you mean police misconduct? Right? I mean, what is brutality? Which again is my suggestion to go back and look at the definition, right? And I'm using that as an example because it just came up earlier this week with my students. So just keep those synonyms in mind. But let me ask you, Pauline, do you have a firm, solid grasp of what unconscious bias training is, and maybe a suggestion on how that can create equity at college? And I'm asking you for a reason, because if you have a guesstimate or you have some sort of something that's leading you there, great. But if you don't know what that is at first, it's going to be very difficult to find what it is that you're looking for without having that frame of reference there. So I just wanted to share that with you. You don't have to write in the chat or pop on the mic, but hopefully you can hear me out there.
So I've decided to throw training in. I'm really just throwing keywords at the wall to see what sticks at this point.
Right. So we have racial equity college bias training, which
I have no idea what I'm going to get for results.
That's a mouthful.
But I have 13,000 results. Good Lord.
Oh, and that first one looked good.
Yeah, I realized I hadn't actually hit the search button.
Leadership of racial equity. What was the, can you go back? What was the back? The first one looked good.
Yeah, so if I take out training and I just left it as bias, advance racial equity by uncovering unconscious bias.
Now, right, and that is college, but let's take our college out of it for a moment. That might help if we can read that paper and just read the summary like Ross was saying and just kind of get a sense of, wow, this advanced it. What's down there? Washington, D.C.
I'm wondering if this is just a text of a speech that was given.
Yeah, it looks like it's only a page. So.
Yeah, I'm not feeling super.
Not now that we poked in, but the headline looked good. I guess that's kind of what I'm saying, Pauline. It's like, we want to make sure that we get you a firm grip on uncovering unconscious bias, and what unconscious bias is, and how you think based on the information that you read. How does that help generate racial equity, especially in college? And this is also, yeah, go ahead.
In schools. So this may not be about college specifically, it just says children in schools.
And Pauline, was this your first pick? Because these are always good examples of, you might want to always have a B, a backup plan, and maybe a C, because sometimes you'll pick a topic in these courses and it's great. You get the green light, you get the present, you get to pick what you want. And then you're like, oh, I'm going to do it on this, like no brainer, easy. And then once you start doing the research, you're like, ruh-roh, I shouldn't have done this one. So I'm encouraging you again, as a research tool and tip, try to have a backup and try to have a backup, just in case.
And it doesn't have to be a totally different topic. That's one of the things I've noticed. Sometimes students start searching and they can't find something with the first set of search terms they try, and they throw up their hands and say it's a bad topic. And I'm like, no, it's a great topic. We just have to try a different set of search terms. Now, I want to take a minute here and pull out this last sentence in the little summary. This research is likely to provide a productive new perspective for understanding why and when teachers and other school personnel engage in behaviors that reproduce racial inequality, often in spite of best intentions and commitments to racial equality. So I'm putting you a little bit on the spot, Pauline, but what does that say to you? Are we going to be able to solve this problem with a training?
Do we have this one? Oh, that's funny. I'm doing different searches on the other websites, everyone, and I found the same thing from that Kellogg Foundation. I'm looking at Google Scholar as well, just to see if there's anything there.
Well, and that's a good point, Jason, you just raised too, is like a lot of times it's just knowing about the right tool for the job, right? Because my instinct when I heard college was I went to a database specifically about education research. It's this one called Education Source. And I think I did pretty well with my searches there. There's quite a bit on
Can we go look at Ross's screen, Nicole?
Yeah, let me try to share that again. Okay, can you see that now? Yeah. So when I searched that, I picked out those main ideas and I linked them together. That's what that and does, is it tells the database we want those things in the same source somewhere. And I picked out college and equity and bias and training. I left out the racial one because I wasn't sure what types of equity we were dealing with here, but I thought the racial equity might be sort of implied. So when I did that, I found 63 articles that have something to do with it. Now, this one caught my eye because this is about training programs and institutions. It happens to be in England, but I don't know that that matters for your topic or not. Sometimes it does. Research is done all over the world. So you have to kind of weigh those things too as you look at that, because I mean, that kind of hints at what I'm looking at. But as you're scrolling through there, sometimes it's just about choosing the right tool. So you might want to look at some of these other options. If one isn't working for you, give another one a try. There's always another way to do it. I guess that's my big takeaway from that.
And Ross, do you want to share the name of the database you were exploring? Were you using ERIC?
I was using Education Source.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I use it often. I think it works really, really well for, education research. But that's a one I go to a lot.
Well, let's check back in with Pauline, maybe just in the chat with a yes or no. Are we going in the right direction? Are we helping you? Are we making you more confused?
I think we might have lost Pauline.
Oh, no.
Or she's there, but she had to leave her computer because she hasn't, I haven't seen a chat or a response the past few times y'all called her out. Oh, there she is.
Yeah,
okay, I was like,
awesome. So I went ahead and put the link to that specific database that Ross mentioned in the chat, so that you can do that kind of research too. Explore a specific subject database. Ross likes Education Source.
Jason's right too. Google Scholar is an amazing tool, especially if you link it with our databases.
Oh man. And here's one called ERIC, which is actually another education-specific database. I put that link in the chat as well, so you can take a look at it. So we can do exactly the same. Let's see. College and bias and training. What was our fourth keyword, Ross?
I used, yes.
All right, let's do some searching.
Now, Eric is much more likely to focus on U.S. research too.
Let's see, faculty members' experiences. Here's a task force report. Chief diversity. So this is very focused on like the administrative side of this thing. I'm not seeing as many. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I really think to go back, and again, all my friends on the call here, you're seeing 3 different librarians' brains in action trying to figure this out. I'm standing my ground a little bit. I'd go back to what unconscious bias training is. What exactly is that? I think we understand what a college is. And so when that training comes in, how does that help, right? You don't have to exactly search for your topic word for word and try to, plug it in and here's the answer. But try to build it. Now that would be my approach to it. And that would be my CALID approach. Here's another. So here's unconscious bias training. Well, here's how it works in the college. Okay, so is there equity in the college? No. Okay, so here's how that can help, right, to provide equity at the college. But I don't know what unconscious bias is. I'm not really sure. And then what is the training for that, right? That's where I would start.
When you were just talking, Jason, it made me think of a puzzle. So like, you need all the pieces of a puzzle to make the big picture. But the piece like on the edge on the left-hand side really it doesn't look like the piece that's like in the middle, top right corner. You know what I mean? Or not, you know what I'm saying? It's like thinking of it like all the pieces don't have to even touch each other, but they're part of the whole picture. I feel like that's kind of where your brain was going there. And as far as deconstructing the topic.
Okay, so let's do this. If you want, you could share my screen. Hang on one sec. Let me share my screen. Can it be on a different browser? Or is it going to be on the same browser that I'm on now? Share screen.
No, just share, like,
Window.
click on share screen,
There it
and
is.
then it makes you pick. Okay, there, I see it. I can add it in now.
Okay, let me know when you can see it.
It's there.
You're good.
Okay, Pauline, I want to make sure that you're there. Can you see this? So all I did was I took what you had and I put it into, and I'll make it larger. I put it into the old Google, right? So I literally took out, you had one word in there. I put racial equity within college, unconscious bias training to create, did I lose it? To create equity. Is that what you have, right? Okay, so what are we seeing? Okay, you got you. I see you in the chat. I'm toggling back between browsers, so I apologize. So remember before we were looking at results. Okay, so now we have 5.6. So what are we looking at here? The first one is going to be a .edu. Okay, so this is an education facility. So this might be a good one just to look at because it's but that's online racial, but it is a professional development program. Right. And so we are maybe talking about that. So let's put a pin on that one. Not too bad. Now the next one gives us a date, as we talked about before. I might not really care about unconscious bias training from the 1920s if such a thing happened. I really kind of want to know what's going on now. So this is in that radius, a good 2 to 3 to 5 year radius. And this says, in a nutshell, implicit, which Ross mentioned earlier. Now we have unconscious and implicit, focuses on this and stereotypes. Well, that's okay. Well, we want to get rid of those. And attitudes. Yep, we want to get rid of those. Those are both barriers to getting to equity, correct? Like we don't need an article to tell us that, but this might be good. So as you continue to go through here, I would look at this as well. However, if your assignment only says library resources, then Pauline, what I would do is I would still follow this train of thought and I would look at the information. I just wouldn't cite it and I wouldn't plagiarize. I wouldn't take it and put it in my paper. But it's just like if you're walking by the pizza shop, you look in the window, you see all the pizzas, you smell the pizzas. You don't have to eat the pizzas. You don't have to buy the pizza. You could still get the same, kind of almost experience out of it. You don't have to buy this information. You don't have to put it in your paper. But as you see, now we have a .org. So here's a not-for-profit. Here's another not-for-profit. Here's another Vanderbilt EDU. And let's open it up. This is Vanderbilt University. This is a prestigious university. Okay. So equity, diversity, and inclusion. And they're talking about, let's do a finder on the page. So we're going to do control finder, and then we're going to do bias, unconscious bias. University leaders are actively working to mitigate the effects of unconscious bias, along with implementing new educational opportunities for community members. Okay, great. So they gave us a little bit more insight. You see what I'm doing here? I have my magnifying glass. I'm a detective. I'm looking for what this is, and you could read this article and go, oh, that gives me a better definition on what this is. Now, here's something, national training, the National Training Institute. Okay, maybe, but I'd want an author on this one, I think. Oh, it's from Morehouse College. Boom, so that helps me, right? Just knowing that it's a college. Although it is a training thing. This is kind of a weird one. It doesn't even end in a .org or .com or anything. It's very...
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to jump in and say, I use Wikipedia to look up definitions all the time. I never cite it. Never, ever, ever cite it. But I might look up what a word means to make sure I have an understanding of what the term is, especially when a student brings me an exciting topic that I've never run into before. But I would caution against relying too heavily on the open web, because you'll notice Jason's having to wade through a lot of stuff. Training programs that colleges are doing, training programs that are being sold to colleges, articles about colleges. Whereas when we were in the databases in the library, we were finding less than 100 results, and they tended to be a little bit more focused. So where you search is going to impact what kind of results you find.
Right. And so as you can see, everybody's got a different approach. You're all going in the same direction. You just want to make sure that you don't plagiarize. You want to make sure that you also don't, disrespect the assignment criteria and instructions. If it says you will get an A if you do this, and that includes library only resources, and you go to Google or Wikipedia or anywhere else, Google Scholar, chances are you're going to get dinged on that. You're going to get a lower grade. So can you still see the screen? I went to implicit bias training now. I'm on Wiki. Once again, to Claire's point, you could read this information. This will give you kind of what you're looking for. The problem is we don't necessarily know who wrote this page. I would want to go somewhere more for if I'm getting the actual definition. To a credible dictionary.com is one of my favorites. But you can always go up here to the edit button or the view history button. And on view history, you could see who wrote it in case you really want to know. But you're not going to go into your paper and say uranium site is the author. So according to Skidbot, Citation Bot wrote this, right? So that's where the credibility of these pages comes into question, which is an ongoing conversation in academia. So you really are just kind of, getting a bunch of different answers. You really just want to critically evaluate the information. But if you're going to look for a definition, I'd want to go to dictionary.com. Did you get all of that, Pauline? Did we help you?
We threw a bunch of different ways to approach it. You've got a couple of databases that would be useful to explore. You've got some potential search terms and 1 or 2 articles that looked pretty good for me that I threw the permalinks into the chat for you.
Okay, so who do we have left? We have Laura. Hi, Laura. What are we working on? How can we help? We've already gotten Holly an A, you got Olivia an A, Pauline, you got A.
Well, they have to write the papers, but we've done our best to make sure that they have some solid sources and cheerleading. We cheerleaded Holly. She's got this under control.
Did everyone see that? I gave you an A and Claire took it away. So remember, when you're doing your favorite
We're
librarian,
not the grading faculty.
But
we don't give out grades.
They still could have taken it. See what she did there? All right, what do we got, Laura? Where are we at? What do we got?
Pick a topic.
This is great. This will be a nice wrap up here. We'll do a topic. So what is the pick a topic on what?
Yeah, what's your assignment and which class is this for? And if you want to unmute and just talk to us, you sure can.
Yep. When you say pick a topic, I will change that word to a different word, and I'll explain to you why. I would encourage you all to discover your topics.
Ooh, very fancy.
That is correct. You want to discover it. You want to have that, you're looking, once again, shopping, or you're at a store or something, you're looking around, that's the kind of, I want to get that. I want to do that as my topic. I would do that. That's the discovery. There you go. You already have the database. Or you're doing an opposing viewpoint. Are you doing an argumentative or a persuasive? Because we can just go to opposing viewpoints and look at almost 500 different topics for you.
I'll get that pulled up right now.
Cool. Opposing viewpoints, SIRS, and the other one is issues in context or issues in controversies. Yeah, those are all good databases that we can get to. You want us to take a look at this one, Laura, with you? We'll show you how we got there. Just put a Y or an N in the chat. Okay.
So how I got there, I started on the library homepage. You can click right on databases right here. That takes you to our A to Z list. News and current events will get you some of them, but we went straight to the O for opposing viewpoints. And here we are in opposing viewpoints. Now, the really nice thing about opposing viewpoints is you can browse the issues. This is my favorite part. This gives us an incredibly, unbelievably, unreasonably long list of possible.
It's intimidating, right?
Topics.
Especially where you're at. You need to pick a topic now for your finale. When is your final due? Laura, I'm assuming next week by the latest, and the 28th, correct, right? So this is even more, the anxiety and the stress level is higher. But the good news is once you settle on one, once you pick it, you will get a lot of good information on your topic, just on this one here. Were you already looking on opposing viewpoints?
I just gave you the link directly to this topic browse page. Now, this is also where I urge people to think about something you're already interested in. So for a lot of people, if they have an idea about what job they're going for, they might say, oh, well, I really want to be a nurse, so I want to pick a healthcare topic. And we might say, oh, okay, maybe healthcare access is a place we could start to explore. Or maybe they're really interested in psychology and they say, oh, body image, that sounds interesting. That's kind of up my alley. But for some people, they don't really know what they're going for yet. And just scrolling through the list, pardon me, scrolling through the list and seeing what's available will tweak a little something. Ooh, I want to know more about self-driving cars.
Now, did you hear when you made that noise? That was the discovery. Did everyone hear that? It wasn't real. It was feigned, but that's the noise you want to make. You're like, I want to do that one. That's it. This is your paper. It's your assignment. It's your grade. It's your tuition. It's your college degree. Let's get into it.
So try to pick something that you're at least a little interested in, because if you just pick kind of at random, you're going to hate your topic. You're going to hate your paper.
For sure. And that's why I'm saying you probably need a B or a C, a backup or something. Don't just settle on it. However, keep in mind the 28th is the assignment. The paper's got to be done. We got to get something.
We got to get something today. Yeah. So, Laura, is anything jumping out to you? Does anything seem interesting?
And I don't know if Laura said, is an argumentative paper or an essay or?
I believe that was what we said, yes.
Persuasive? Let's go to obesity or something. I think argumentative. Okay, great. So yeah, so a rule of encouragement is to go back and check the assignment criteria when you get a chance in your Canvas. And then you'll have a firm understanding of what's needed. Maybe there's a rubric there. You could take a look at the rubric that gives you the grade scale, like complete this, complete this, complete this. But pick obesity because I'm thinking obesity might be something just in general, so we can pop open one of these and let's see what it looks like.
Oh, I'm so tired of obesity. Can we do literally anything else?
I want obesity, Claire. We're gonna fight in front of the students. Just kidding. Pick whatever you want. Let's just pop it open.
We're going to do net neutrality today.
There we go. So everyone's favorite, net neutrality. So when you pop this open, you'll get an immediate information starter here. It's brief, but then you could start clicking on it as you scroll down. I would do the read more. You could see all the bells and whistles below. But if you click on the read more, this really does read on all of the pages, no matter what the topic is. It kind of reads like a paper. So as you're scrolling down, here's kind of the intro, right? Then you're going to start getting these questions that can help point you in the right direction. And then you should see some headings, right? As you continue to scroll down, there should be some sort of historical reference. I thought I saw 1934 when you scroll back. So it is giving you kind of a timeline. Oh, and there was we might have a lag in scrolling, but there is the Communication Act. Okay, so that's 1934. So it's giving you kind of a timeline. And as you continue to scroll down, you're going to see some other regulatory history, right? How did it become? What's the FCC? All that. I see 1996. Okay, great. 2005. Okay, something had this 2007. You can see the chronology here. We're going in order on time. Okay, we keep scrolling down. I mean, this is way. Okay, repeal of net neutrality. Okay, so now net neutrality has been repealed, right, in 2015. So again, this is kind of giving you that step by step that I think you can kind of mirror something like this in your paper, and I hope that helps. There are 500 different topics on that previous page, so but you want to get into your topic, you want to care about it.
So once you found something that seems interesting to you, I'm going to let you kind of do that part, Laura, but let me give you a tour of a few of the other aspects of this database. So when we go back to our previous page, this is our little
obesity. All right, I'm muting now. I'm on mute.
I don't believe you, Jason. So academic journal articles are great possible sources. They're going to give you just a couple to get you started. I would be very cautious with viewpoints. Think of these as sample papers that other people have written. For some people, it's really helpful to see a sample of what an argumentative paper might look like. But some people want to cite them as if they're credible sources, and that can be a little dicey. But looking at news articles could be really helpful to get started. Statistics could be really useful to get started. Academic journal articles. This gives you a starting point for your research. Now, I would suggest very strongly that you not finish with opposing viewpoints. Opposing viewpoints is a good place to start your research. And once you've found your topic, then you can pop back over to that library homepage. Hang on, click the right buttons. And you could enter your topic. That's not how you spell neutrality at all. That's better. And I can do a search for net neutrality, and I'm going to find tons more research on my topic than just what I had in opposing viewpoints. So we've actually got a book. We've got some articles. Articles are what I tend to look for. Those tend to be extremely helpful. Films, they don't tend to move me, but they're there if you wanted them. So lots more resources after you've picked your topic.
Oh, I'm on mute. Now I see I was really on mute. I was talking the whole time.
You were really on mute. I take it all back.
Which is very, very difficult for me to do. Can we, let's jump over. Actually, I have it pulled up. I just want to show you issues and controversies, because I think issues and controversies might be one. Oh, look at that. Why did I get that one? Can I not get into single sign-on here? There we go. Is that going to do it, Claire? Hadn't done that one before. So how we got there, we're at the library page, right? seminolestate.edu/library. Under databases, you can go to the letter I as in igloo, and then the bottom one here is issues and controversies. So when you put something in here, what you're going to do is you're actually going to get both sides of an argument. Okay, so let's look at this. So this is a big hot topic these days. Okay, so you can see right here, supporters of the argument argue this. And so this information here can help you.
I think we're still on my screen.
Got it.
Jason.
Oh, we need the mod. No, I see it. And maybe it just flipped over. Oh, that's yours. Okay. I'll stop sharing my screen. Click on anything and any topic, and you'll be able to see what I was talking about. Okay, let's
look at Supreme Court justices and term limits, since that's our top one.
Perfect.
Supporters argue,
correct.
Opponents argue, just like Jason was saying.
So Pauline and anyone who's doing an argumentative, you can use some of these database. By the way, look at when it was last updated. That looks pretty current to me. No, I mean, so you want to keep this in mind too. And this already starts to look a little different than opposing viewpoints. I'm starting to see pictures. As you scroll down, there's kind of a timeline. Once again, that timeline is kind of important because it's giving you the historical context all the way up to now, which is literally a couple days ago, right? April 12th. But you can look at the information on supporters argue. And so on the right-hand side, do you see supporters argue? Let's look at opponents argue. Can you click on that, Claire, and see if anything pops up?
Opponents argue.
Okay. So when you're doing your argumentative, you always want to have an argument, but you need a little bit of room for a counter argument, which, as I've mentioned before, you just completely pour water on and just say, well, some oppose and say this. However, they're all wrong and I'm correct, and here's the reason why, right? So I would use issues and controversies to help format your argument with supporters or arguments, and you're going to probably pick a side, right, Pauline? I'm sure that's part of the prompt too. You're going to show your point of view. Is that correct for the assignment? And there is a conclusion. I forget who was on the call earlier talking about conclusion. Let's click on conclusion, please. Let's up a couple. Boom. Was that you, Olivia? It was somebody. But this is the future of the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, none of you, as I know, we all just met, but I don't think any of you have a time machine. So none of you can really see what the future of the Supreme Court was. Thanks, Olivia. But that's kind of what I was echoing, what I was saying before is, where does it go from here? Right? How do we leave it kind of open-ended research question? Because we don't know. We don't know what tomorrow is going to be on the Supreme Court. I don't know what the next day is. What about 4 days from now? Well, that I know. I'm just kidding. So keep all that in mind. This kind of these databases are here to help you. They think of them as co-pilots. You know?
Now, issues and controversies doesn't have quite the same depth that opposing viewpoints does for additional sources. They do have some, but it's 2 and they're books. So issues and controversies is really good for getting an overview of a controversial subject. It does not have those same lists of potential sources, but it does have some keywords that you could use to refine your topic down a little bit further. So that's kind of the plus sides and the downsides of issues and controversies as opposed to opposing viewpoints.
Right, and Pauline needs 5. So if your topic was on both of these, you could look at a bunch of different databases that we have. Another one to look at maybe is SIRS, SIRS, which again, you're still trying to select your thing. You're still trying to select your topic. So these are the reason that you'd want to check some of these is to kind of be inquisitive, right? Do your preliminary research. Do you have a preference on any of these, Ross? Do you use any of these?
I like all of them.
3. Yeah, same.
Yep, I like all of them. I also use CQ Researcher every once in a while.
There you go.
Topic overviews. It does something similar, but it's really just like one big document kind of thing. I don't think they do any additional resources kind of.
And so here we can already see, right, friends, this looks very similar just based on the pictures. We've already seen a couple different ones. So you can imagine animal rights has what? Animal rights information. And so these are there built to help you. All of these databases and library resources are part of your tuition, right? They're free. You have access to them as long as you're a currently enrolled student. You have a 24/7 in addition to our library chat. So you can bounce on there and ask someone at 2 or 3 in the morning as you're coming up on finals. So keep all this in mind, and hopefully Pauline, some or one or all of these databases. Do you have a better understanding of this? Do you think you're leaning towards a topic now or no? Yes. Oh, Laura is? Laura, what's your topic? What is it? Oh, Pauline, we did. Okay. Laura needed it. Got it.
All right, and there's the link to the SIRS research if you want to do some exploration there. So once you've got the topic, remember you can go back to that library search engine, enter your topic in, do a search, and find a bunch more resources. So don't feel like you're just limited to what are in those specific databases. There's a lot more out there. And we haven't mentioned it for a while, so I'll mention it again. You can always get help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. On the library homepage, you can actually get research support is what we call it, as we're supporting your research. And you can make a research appointment or use our 24/7 chat. You can do that by picking a location. I'm going to say online so we don't have to change out of our pajamas. You pick a day that works for you. You pick a time that works for you. You book the appointment right here online. Super easy. Let me get y'all a link for that as well, just in case you want it.
Yeah, and you got the library link scrolling on the bottom there. So again, we're here to help you, and that's based on your busy schedule, right? You can see the dates of availability and the times and everything, and you know.
And I will say, if you none of the times that are listed work for you, if you've got a really weird work schedule, reach out. I have been known to meet with students at very odd times to work with their schedules. So you can shoot me an email. I know Ross sometimes will do email on weekends. Jason, not sure what your schedule is or how your appointments work, but if you've got
mine private. I'm very hidden and private.
Okay, well,
just kidding. You could select my name. There's my schedule. I'm there, second on the bottom. We're all available, but we're all starting to get super busy now towards the end of the term as well. But Zoom or even on the phone or face to face. Again, I'm at Sanford Lake Mary. Ross is at Sanford Lake Mary and Heathrow. Claire is at Altamont. So I'm not even sure. Can you guys drop in the chat? Which campuses are you mainly on or online? Can you let us know? Cool. So Pauline, there you go.
Hey, Altamont represent.
There you go.
Very nice. Got some Sanford going on there.
Right. And I guess here's another pop quiz. Do all of you know where the libraries are on those different campuses? Or at least your campus? I hope we get all yeses.
Oh, Olivia knows, and that's the hard one, the UP building and campus. Absolutely, you can come to, anybody can use any of our libraries. Yep, you're not restricted just to the one you take classes at.
Okay, so Olivia and Holly, you guys have definitely seen us then before, yeah? Ross and I, maybe wandering the halls.
And Paulina and Laura, we're on the first floor of the A building. If you look through the big silver letters on the wall, it says library. We're right there.
Yeah, stop in and say hi. We have a few more minutes, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time, especially you guys have been on for a really long time here. Is there any final questions? Ross is my librarian for English. There you go.
We probably talked then.
Any last thoughts, any questions? We covered citations, we covered searches, we covered the library databases, we looked at Google Scholar a little bit, we looked at how to read the academic journals, talked a lot about keywords and kind of parsing things out and really taking different approaches. We looked at a lot of different databases, posting Viewpoints and SIRS and Academic Search Complete, and we looked at a lot of different ones. So I hope this was helpful. Has this been helpful for you? And keep in mind that we are here to help even more by chat or through the research appointments. We want to make sure that we get, okay, good. Thanks, Olivia. Because we're all getting up on that, April 28th. How many days? What do we got here? Today's the 20th. Okay.
That's like 8 days. That's a nice chunk of time. That's more than 1 week. Think of it that way. You have time to do it.
You got a little time. And remember, we're here at the library to help.
Nicole, do we have access to the link? You have some wrap-up moments?
Well, I just want to let everyone know that everyone is marked as attended in Raider Connect. However, I don't know if anyone knows Sam. Sam did not put their last name. I don't know who Sam was. So if any of y'all that are on here, because I know, so I think one of y'all was friends with Laura and we got Laura in. So you know Sam, let me know. We might hear from Sam. Otherwise, that's the only person that wasn't marked for attendance. So yeah, but just like everyone else is saying, we're here to help. Big questions, small questions, use us. I mean, the librarians are here. Like, we're ready. So, but no, I think we're good. So thank you to everyone for participating. Thank you for joining our inaugural live stream with guests. And yeah, anything else?
Cool. That's it. Best of luck to you.
Alrighty, yo.
We're here for you. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for participating. You'll get your credit, and we'll see you in the library. Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Take care, all. Bye.
Bye. Ending broadcast.